PlayStation recently had a showcase, but most of these are coming to PC. On May the 24th, PlayStation had a live event showcasing games and some hardware. Let's get the hardware out of the way first. They showcased Project Q. It's a streaming device. You can stream your PS5 that you have in your house to this device. It's got a 1080p panel, 60Hz. Admittedly, we know nothing else about this device, other than the fact that this device has a screen, and it has all of the functionalities of a typical DualSense controller. But honestly, there's no reason to get this. There isn't a single price point that makes me want to buy this. First and foremost, we don't know what this device can do. There's a high likelihood that this device out of the box will not be able to do anything but stream. If that's the case, then it'll be less functional than, say, a Logitech G Cloud. Not to mention, the device just looks ugly. Like, I didn't know Sony had it in them to make a product that looks this bad. It literally looks like they glued two halves of a DualSense controller to a tablet. The earbuds look nice, but honestly, I need to try these out for myself. Now let's talk about the games. Note, I'm not going to be talking about any of the VR only titles. First, let's talk about titles that haven't been announced for PC. The first of these, of course, is Final Fantasy 16. As of right now, Final Fantasy 16 is not coming to PC. Could it be coming to PC in the future? Maybe, but we have to wait for an official announcement. Next up is the Metal Gear Solid Master Collection, Volume 1. They've only officially confirmed a PS5 release, but they have stated the latest platforms. So it's very likely they'll include Xbox. As for PC and Switch, I think it would be great if they brought it to PC and the Nintendo Switch. Next up is a Square Enix esport title known as Foam Stars. This is definitely a Splatoon clone, except with bubbles instead of, ink. The game has only been announced for PS4 and PS5. Them not porting this to PC seems like a mistake, but honestly, I'm not sure I'd want to play a Splatoon clone. And of course, last but certainly not least, Spider-Man 2. Now hear me out, Spider-Man 1 and Spider-Man Miles Morales came out on PC, but that came out years after the original release. And I think Sony's willing to maintain that same time frame. A couple of years between the PS5 and PC release. Also, special shout out to Tower of Fantasy, a Genshin Impact clone that's literally on Steam, but literally does not work on Steam OS. This is also a game that came out after the Steam Deck did. So yes, this doesn't work on Steam Deck. So now let's get to the games that may work on Steam Deck. First up is Fair Games. Fair Games is supposed to be a competitive heist game. Honestly, there's like a 50-50 chance that this may work on Steam Deck or may not work on Steam Deck, depending on the anti-cheat and if the developers put in the time to enable anti-cheat support for Steam Deck. But honestly, I don't really have an interest in this game. Next up is Helldivers 2. Helldivers 1 is a fantastic co-op game, from a top-down shooter to a full-blown third-person shooter. Helldivers is also really funny, and I'm glad they kept the humor. This has definitely been announced for PC. There's even a Steam page up. The next game is Immortals of Aveum? Aveum? I don't know. Immortals of Aveum is what looks like a first-person shooter, but with magic instead. It seems pretty decent. This is coming to PC, and there's a good chance that this will technically work on Steam Deck. The big issue though is that the required specs seem pretty high. There's a good chance that even if the Steam Deck can run this game, it won't run the game well. Of course, we'll have to reserve judgment for when the game actually comes out. Next up is Ghost Runner 2. Ghost Runner was heavily featured in Steam Deck marketing campaigns, but that's no guarantee for the sequel. Here's to hoping that we can run this game at 60 FPS on the Steam Deck. I know it's not very likely, but you gotta let a man dream every now and then. The next game on this list is Phantom Blade Zero. Now this game looks awesome. It's like Sekiro, but it gives off wuxia vibes. If the gameplay showcased in this trailer is representative of what the actual game will be like, then I already know I'm gonna have a good time with this game. The big question isn't whether or not this will run on Steam Deck, but whether or not it'll run on Steam Deck well. The next game is Sword of the Sea, made by the guys that made Journey. I'm not gonna lie, I've never played Journey before. I've heard it's a great game, don't get me wrong. I've heard a lot about it. Maybe I should play it. But anyways, this game looks kind of interesting. It looks like a fantasy sort of skateboarding game. I don't see why this couldn't run on Steam Deck well. I think it could definitely run well. The next game is the Talos Principle 2. I've told Fan the Deck that I've never played the first game before, and he told me to drop everything to play it, and I still haven't played it yet, so there's that. I'll play it at some point. It's coming to PC, and honestly, puzzle games are a great fit for the Steam Deck as well. The next game is Neva, created by the same guys that created Gris. It looks to be a very different type of game from Gris, and it gives me Princess Mononoke vibes, like seriously. We haven't seen any actual gameplay, but the game already looks quite intriguing. It's also coming to PC. I think this will run pretty well on Steam Deck. Next up is Cat Quest, Pirates of the Caribbean. Oh wow, that's a good one right there. If you love cats, you'll probably love this game too. You'll probably also love the fact that it's on PC, and this game looks like it'll run well on Steam Deck. But of course, I could be wrong. Next up is The Plucky Squire. I like the concept of this game greatly, and honestly, I hope it runs well on Steam Deck. It gives me a Link Between Worlds vibes, but of course, in a different context. The game will be on PC, but if it works on Steam Deck, I'll be playing this game all the way through. Teardown is a game that's on Steam already, and yes, the game runs on Steam Deck. That said, the entire game is physics-based, and there's a lot of physics-based calculations going on, and so the game is bound to lag at some point. The game brings even the best PCs on their knees, so it's unsurprising that the game lags on Steam Deck when things are happening. Next up is Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater. This is a Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater remake. It's coming to PS5, but also Xbox Series S and X and PC. You may be wondering why this is called Metal Gear Solid Delta. Well, in mathematics, delta represents changes or differences in numbers. Let's say you go from 2 to 5. The delta is 3. Ultimately, we don't know for certain if this game will run well on Steam Deck, but I think the bigger question is, will this game be any good without Kojima? Next up is Towers of Aghasba. I think that's how you pronounce it, right? Anyways, this is on PC, but yes, like with literally every other game on this list, it'll probably run on Steam Deck, but I don't know if it'll run well on Steam Deck. I think this one has a better chance of running well on Steam Deck, but honestly that really depends. Alan Wake 2 is coming to PC as well, but here's the interesting thing. It'll be an Epic exclusive because the game's published by Epic, so it'll never, ever, ever come to Steam. That said, it's not to say that it won't work on Steam Deck, you'll just have to put in a lot more effort. Next up is Assassin's Creed Mirage. This one more resembles the older Assassin's Creed titles, and honestly, that's great. I really loved the older Assassin's Creed titles. It's coming to PC, but only through Ubisoft Connect and the Epic Games Store, so at the very least, this game will not be on Steam at launch. That doesn't mean it won't work on Steam Deck, but it'll be a pain in the butt to get working on Steam Deck, you know? Next up is Revenant Hill by the creators of Night in the Woods. I've also never played Night in the Woods either. There's no gameplay out, so we don't know what kind of game this is. That said, I don't think the game will be a drastic departure from what the current art style is, so I think this game will probably run well on Steam Deck. Maybe. Don't quote me on that. Next up is Grand Blue Fantasy Relink. Honestly, if I wanted to play a Grand Blue Fantasy game, I'd probably just play Grand Blue Fantasy Versus instead. But here we are. Will this run on Steam Deck? Maybe. I don't see why it wouldn't. The game is supposed to launch winter of this year. Next up is Street Fighter 6. This game is literally around the corner, and we've played the open and closed beta on Steam Deck, so we know it works on Steam Deck. The game could use some optimizations to keep this game running at a smooth 60 FPS, because I'm not playing this at anything less than 60. Next up is Ultros, a game that looks super duper trippy and psychedelic, but also looks kind of fun. It'll probably run on Steam Deck, but the question is the game any good? We'll find out soon enough, hopefully. Next up is Dragon's Dogma 2. Capcom strikes once again, this time with Dragon's Dogma 2. Dragon's Dogma 1 is amazing. Get it on Steam and play it right now. It's got one of the best combat systems in any open world game, and honestly, the magic in this game is awe-inspiring. And honestly, I hope Dragon's Dogma 2 is more of the same thing. You know what would be super sick though? Actual co-op. They also showcased a lot of VR stuff that I can just safely ignore because I don't have a PSVR 2. Next up is Marathon. Yes, that Marathon by Bungie. But as opposed to being a boomer shooter, this time around it's supposed to be a PvP extraction shooter, kind of like Escape from Tarkov. This will be on PS5 and Xbox Series S and X and PC. But of course, I have my reservations about this game running on Steam Deck. First and foremost, they don't allow you to play Destiny 2 on SteamOS. So there's a good chance that you won't be able to do so on this game either. Furthermore, even if it did work on Steam Deck, this is a PvP extraction shooter. I'm not entirely sure I'd want to play this on my Steam Deck to begin with. But hey, maybe Bungie will change their mind. right? Next up is Concord, a new PvP FPS. Yes, it's coming to PC. No, we know nothing about this other than the fact that it's sci-fi. And given it's a PvP game, there's like a 50-50 toss-up that this probably won't work on Steam Deck. Of course, there's a Gran Turismo movie and the extensive Spider-Man showcase, which as of right now, it has only been confirmed for PS5. And that right there caps the show. For a lot of hardcore PlayStation fans, I can see why they're so disappointed. Most of these games are just third-party games that are going to PC anyways, with very few true exclusives. There's also still no Bloodborne PC port. Not to mention they announced this abomination of a device. If you liked this video, be sure to press the thumbs up button and spread the good gospel of high-tech lowlife. And if you want to see more high-tech lowlife, be sure to subscribe and press the bell icon for notifications. And for you enlightened individuals, be sure to join my Discord server. And if you wish to support high-tech lowlife, be sure to check out our Patreon page, links in the description down below.